I am Liz Lovelett. I'm the senator from the 40th Legislative District and a rich and vibrant arts and culture hub in the northwestern part of the state. So I'll take you in the way back machine to kind of the origin of how I got interested in this particular topic. Many of you know I used to own a record store called The Business in Anacortes. And I bring that up because at the time we had a very teeny tiny little music venue in there. We did some arts, we had a little cafe, but I purchased The Business at a time when Napster was coming online. And, you know, at the time, it was just the beginning of these pirated downloads, and it really undermined the ability for brick and mortar record stores, which are hubs for our communities, for arts and culture, thought, and, community, was being completely undermined by technology that we were ill-equipped to manage and deal with and evolve. I was very lucky that I was able to eventually sell The Business to its fourth generation of ownership, and they were young and savvy, and they were able to change a lot about their business model to evolve. And I'm proud to say, after I think 48 years now, they are still alive and thriving in Anacortes. During COVID, we knew that as the shutdowns were happening and people weren't allowed to go out and enjoy our music and arts and theater venues, there was a real cry for help at a certain point, because our theaters were some of the last businesses to reopen after the pandemic. Naturally, it's, a lot of people congregated in a small space. We needed to keep people safe, but they desperately needed the support of the state and their communities in order to stay open and weather the storm that was COVID. Well, now we have a new storm in front of us, and that is the fact that, our tech companies are very savvy, and they've managed to create a new workaround that circumvents consumer protection for fans, that makes it difficult for artists and our venues to thrive. And as we all know, for anyone that has an art or theater venue in our community, these are economic driving hubs. When you go out to the theater, when you go out to a show, chances are you probably go out to dinner first. You might go out to drinks afterwards. You might walk by a shop and see something great in the window and decide to go in. So these are really huge economic drivers in our communities and for our state, representing about $1 billion in income to Washington State every year. So I'm going to give you just a couple of anecdotes, and then I'll pass it on. But I want to take you also back to beloved R&B band TLC. And I bring it back to them because there is a very famous press coverage after they swept the Grammys that year, where they went on the mic to say, "We are broke." We think about rock stars as being rich and famous, and some of them are, and arguably famous, of course, but the industry is not built to sustain artists being in this business, let alone the fans who are being subject to predatory practices and the venues that struggle so hard to keep their doors open. I took my daughter to see Hamilton this last spring, and I got my tickets at Will Call. And there was this gentleman in front of me that had already paid $1,000 per ticket for a matinee, and then the Paramount Theater had to say, "I'm sorry, but we can't honor those tickets because we can't verify their validity," and then he paid another $500 at the door. These predatory practices are consumer protection problems, and I think you can see by the co-sponsor list on this bill, and I want to give a special thanks to my number 2 co-sponsor, Senator Wilson. This is a bipartisan bill with my 25 other co-sponsors. I commend this bill to you. I will also say we are currently contemplating a substitute version of the bill that helps kind of clean up the draft, ensure that all of the sections talk to each other, that we have consistent definitions, and I have engaged with other stakeholders in the space, and I await their feedback. So I'm sure you will hear some testimony as we work through those issues, like how we can mechanically achieve the price cap provisions and making sure that we have functionality with the transfer of tickets. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I